Welcome to The Blast. I'm John Pritchett and joined by Hank Derschlag, Chief Innovation Officer and founder of BOA Nutrition, Inc.
Thanks, John. Always
Hey,
fun.
so a few things to talk about today. Last week we had Darren Lucas on. We talked a lot about his sports marketing background and talked about a variety of things that we're doing. We actually had planned to talk to someone that very early on was involved in helping us develop the brand, the packaging, but we're going to do that next week. And so that will be a great conversation. The organization, the company that we worked with is called Smash Brand. Principal there is Kevin Smith. Guys have done a lot of terrific work in the sports and nutrition area, but also just generally in consumer packaged goods. And they really helped us using research and understanding what it is that we were trying to accomplish, what the technology stands for, what our goals were, to help us develop that very first kind of vernacular language, graphic design, all of that around the brand. And so it'll be fun to have them talk about all the stuff they've done, and then specifically the process for helping us come up with our initial design around the brand and the product.
Yeah, that was a great experience because, a lot of times people say, well, we don't want to see the sausage being made. But in this case, I think it was a really neat experience to go through that, how they, suggested different brand ideas, different fonts, different looks, and we came up with the current brand we have. So that was really a neat experience for me.
Yeah, and particularly the packaging, because we went through an evolution, as you said, of making some assumptions about what we thought would be great, and then we went out and did the research, and we got some contradictory feedback, which was great, because if you're just sitting around in the room and, assuming that 3 or 4 of you agree that that's the right answer, that's not always the right answer. It's great to substantiate your assumptions or to find that your assumptions are wrong, which we did in this case, because we were thinking about designing a can that was awesome for retail, but probably for the fact that we were direct-to-consumer in e-commerce and you weren't going to be picking it up initially in a store in order to make your decision and to get educated about BOA, it needed something very different than if we were just starting at retail.
Well, you can speak for yourself about siding in that, because I've always been an outlier, and I actually sided on the contradictory side.
In this case, I will agree. You were correct. Yes.
I don't know if I was correct, but I sided on that side, and I think we have a nice-looking product. But the other ones were awesome, too. No one will ever see those other designs, but they were awesome, and we went with this path. And
when we get to retail, it'll be interesting to see whether or not we do some slight evolving to make it more retail friendly than what we're doing now, which is much more about seeing the product through a digital lens and not touching it and feeling it. But we'll get to that later. We're not going to retail now. It's by design. Anyway, enough about that, because that's sort of teasing next week. We obviously will talk about some of the things we've been up to this week. But the first thing, Happy Veterans Day, particularly to you, Hank. You're a veteran.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm very proud. I'm very proud of that, and hope we can do some stuff with the veterans. It's nice. Our product is actually a product that we if we get it to our military and our servicemen, they can use it. We think it can help them. So that's would also be very rewarding for us as a company.
Absolutely. Thank you for your service, and for anyone that's listening that's a veteran, thank you, or any of your family members for serving the country. We do have a discount, just so if anyone's listening is interested in that, we have a discount for service members, and you can go to our website and find that. Is it under Mallory, is it under the frequently asked questions section?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. But your point about the military is a good one, because this product is originally designed to try to solve a problem that athletes have. And if you think about it, some of the best athletes in the world are in the military, particularly special forces. So I think we will we're having some early discussions now. We certainly will advance those discussions and see if we can get into that market and help those premier athletes with the same problems that other premier athletes are having, which would be awesome, because then obviously that's giving our military a real advantage, and that would be a fun thing to do.
A lot of the testing around, whether it's electrolyte depletion, sodium depletion, a lot of those tests come out of the military. So they have some great data that we've actually sourced when we were developing some of our products. So there's an automatic tie-in, and we're going to try our best to get this product into the military.
So before we bring on the special guest for today, let's talk for a minute about what's been going on this week. The big thing is, without naming names, we were able to turn on the television this week and actually see BOA being used by, let's call it, world-class athletes.
I'd call them world-class athletes. So,
yeah.
It's been neat so far because we've been to events and we see a lot of the runners, triathletes, various using it, but it was neat to kind of, move into some more mainstream type sports, and we're just doing some testing. But so far, the results have been very favorable, and as John said, it was nice to see some people using it in competition. And we think we're just going to build on that, and we feel really good about that path.
Yep, that's part of the trial program that we're doing at with lots of teams, both professional and collegiate. As you said, the initial feedback has been fantastic. We're not surprised by that at all. But it's great to get that data and to be able to have a big set of that data so that we're working off of not just anecdotal information, but a large sample size to help reinforce the value proposition.
Hank, how did it feel to see your brainchild or baby, so to speak, on national TV?
I've done a lot of different things, and John knows, over the years. But very few times have I actually seen it on TV. I mentioned we had a company called Fuse Science, and we were the primary sponsor on Tiger Woods' bag for 2 years, which was awesome. And just every time you'd see it, you say, "Wow, look, check this out." But that was just our logo on a bag. This is where you actually see, athletes using your product to be better, or to make themselves better and perform better. And that's what my life's work has kind of been about. At least in this realm, is making athletes better. So it was extremely rewarding, and I think it's just the tip of the iceberg based on the feedback we're getting. So I'm extremely excited. Yeah,
that's a great question, Mallory. The really cool thing about that is that you can find athletes using products if you pay them a large endorsement deal or give them a large percentage of your company, and sometimes that makes sense. But when you see athletes using your product that you haven't paid for endorsement, and that's really got to be pretty exciting.
Yep, that's when you have something, and that's what I tell a lot of people. Whether we're talking to professional athletes, collegiate athletes, we're nothing against brands like Dr. Pepper and Bojangles that are going out and signing deals with the new collegiate licensing programs that are available for athletes. But our product is a product they're actually going to need and want. We hope they want it. And like I said, so far, our job is just to get out there and educate them on how to use it, why to use it. We've got some great relationships with some trainers and some medical doctors, our advisors, and our medical advisors, our doctors are great. So we think that's a winning combination to build it through the trainers and the medical guys.
Yeah, so that whole, to your point about what we're doing is we're helping, from a big picture standpoint, human optimization, we like to say. We're helping people, be the best that they can be, solve problems for them. It's different proposition than the proposition of, an athlete endorsing chicken or cars, or like you said, Dr. Pepper, or whatever the drink may be, that doesn't necessarily help them optimize or help them be the most they can be. So it's just a different category.
Well, and we've when you hear feedback like guys saying, guys that are in the collegiate sports world or the professional sports world, and they say, a lot of products don't come along like BOA that can actually be on a sideline or on a side court or in a locker room for a reason. And the reason is it's going to, like I said, it's going to delay fatigue. It's going to help with cramping. It's going to do a variety of things that really help give that athlete a competitive advantage over his opponent. And that's so that's the path for BOA, and it's nice to be able to see it just start.
Yep. I will say that one of the things that we have, as we've started our digital media campaign, which this is a good segue to introducing Mallory to the audience. we're starting in this digital realm, and we're bringing on the other channels. There's a lot of other things that we're doing simultaneous to the digital media, and we'll talk about those with Mallory. But kind of the omni-channel approach, and we'll continue to bring those on as we go. But one of the most important things is communicating. What is the value proposition of BOA Endure? So I think generally people get the blast and they understand that it's an oral aerosol, and that's really unique, and that it's it's got pressure and it's got micronutrients, and you're spraying it in your mouth, and that it tastes good, maybe even that it's concentrated. But one of the questions has been, okay, what is Endure doing for me? What is it, right? So I know it has something to do with hydration. Can you give your just sort of 10-second, 15-second, okay, basically, why should I be using Endure? What does Endure do for the athlete?
Well, when we talked about the various applications and which application we should go to first, BOA Endure, which delivers sodium, is maybe the simplest and the hardest to explain because it's 2 steps. Because what we say, hydrate faster, but that's the secondary step. The main step is to have the sodium in your system. Without sodium in your system, you can't attract the fluids into your muscles, into your bloodstream, into your cells. So what we do is we deliver the sodium, and we say 10 times faster. In some cases, it could be 30 times faster. It could be 5 times faster. But we deliver the sodium very rapidly back into your system that allows not only the fluids that you're taking in to work for you, but the fluids that are already stored in your body but can't get into your muscles or can't get into your bloodstream because the sodium isn't present. So that's basically what BOA Endure does. It's kind of, we say, the low-hanging fruit, but it's been a little bit tricky to educate the people. They all know they have a problem, so we just have to kind of get it into a nice simple form. Here's how we address your problem, and we're doing that block by block.
So let me ask it a different way then. So why is it that we're putting 150 milligrams of sodium in for someone versus other different kinds of electrolytes? What does that mean in the equation of hydration, and why is it sodium?
Well, all the electrolytes are important. The sodium is key to the attraction of the fluids. The potassium and the magnesium are used in transport of sodium and other nutrients through the bloodstream and through the cells. But when you sweat, the main thing you lose is sodium. I mean, by far, that's what they care about. 20 years ago, people never took potassium pills or magnesium pills. They took sodium salt tablets. So the sodium is the key. We'll have other follow-up products that contain other electrolytes, minerals, and combinations. But with this, the real problem for these athletes is the sodium gap, where they lose the sodium. And, I always say, once you start to fall off that cliff, you can't eat yourself back. You can't drink yourself back, but you can blast yourself back. And that's where our BOA Blast comes in.
Yeah, so basically people with different physiology sweat differently and lose sodium at different rates, but heavy sustained exertion is a fast way to burn sodium. And you're going to burn sodium much faster than you're going to burn these other micronutrients and other electrolytes, right?
That's exactly right. And, to that point, it's a new science because just in the last year to 18 months, you've seen major companies like Gatorade come out with sweat testing, sweat patch. So the patch communicates with your app, and it tells you what your sweat rate is. Over at Duke University that we work closely with, they've just sweat tested all of their athletes, and I think one of their football players was burning at a rate of 5,000 milligrams an hour, which is just a lot of sodium to replace. So I think the sweat testing technology that's coming out is going to really help a company like BOA, because then people will really know, hey, here's my problem. I lose 1,000 milligrams or I lose 1,500 milligrams. Now, the thing about BOA is we think that 150 milligrams in a blast is a lot of sodium. So then the athlete can kind of...
Let me just put it in perspective. That would be like drinking, like this little can, right? This is 3,000 milligrams of sodium in our can.
Yes.
Right, in our smallest can. You would need like 23 or 24 12-ounce bottles of an isotonic beverage to get the same load of sodium.
That's right, in a can. But even in one blast is about 2 grams of liquid. one blast contains 150 milligrams. I'll just go over to an isotonic beverage. And an 8-ounce serving contains about 110 milligrams. And if you've ever noticed, when these athletes in the second half, the third quarter, fourth quarter, it's hard for the trainers to get them to drink anything. A lot of times they'll drink and spit it right out. So it's hard for them to get anything, let alone for them to get 8 ounces down. So our product gives you that same equivalent or more in a 2-second blast.
And because it works so much, it's so fast acting, right? So that it's available to you. The time to effect and the bioavailability are such greater rates than if you were trying to drink or eat your way to acquire that sodium.
Right.
So to your point, you might have plenty of fluid already, right? This is the separation of the electrolyte or separation of the micronutrient, in this case sodium, from fluid.
Exactly.
So you don't have to drink to get the sodium you've lost, right?
Right, exactly. But I still want to emphasize that the drinking is important. You have to have it's got to be the right combination, and that combination is different for everybody. Some guys will drink too much, and I'll tell you, you can even lower your blood sodium by drinking too much of an isotonic beverage like Powerade or Gatorade. If you drink too much of it, you can still develop hyponatremia, which is low blood sodium, by drinking a sports drink. So you figure water is really going to dilute the sodium that's already in your system. So that's why the salt tablets came in, but they were so harsh on the stomach and just hard to compete and keep going with those salt tablets in your system. So we think BOA, it's as Jeff Potomsky at Duke says, it's an elegant solution. It delivers meaningful amounts of sodium, and but you have to couple that with proper hydration protocols.
Yeah, and so that gets us full circle back to the sort of the what some people have said. Okay, exactly where does this fit in the hydration cycle? And so most people think hydration, they think fluid, right? And so if they're having problems, they think I haven't had enough fluid. But the reality is now that we've done a great job of educating people about the need to drink and the need to be hydrated. So most people have fluid. They've taken on fluid or they have fluid available to them. When they're bonking, it's usually not because they don't have fluid in their system. It's because they're out of sodium.
That's exactly right. Because a lot of the coaches and trainers, many trainers, not coaches, but the trainers will instill in their athletes, be drinking fluids for 24 hours before the event or even, 8 hours, 10 hours. You really need to be taking on a lot of fluids. So when they start to fatigue, there is fluid in their system, but that fluid is not reaching the muscles. So, and that's because of the lack of sodium.
Bingo.
So there's and that's, not that we're the holy grail, but I think we're the best solution. I've been doing this for 15 years and I've had some other neat, novel little products, but this in my mind is the best solution. And it's one thing for Hank Derschlag to sit here and say that, but when I hear it from trainers that have been at major universities for 20, 25 years and they're saying, hey, this is the best solution we think we've seen.
Or dietitians and nutritionists who've been training elite athletes for their whole career saying it to us as well. Yeah.
Same thing.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to, kind of talk through that before we moved on. Thanks for that. So Mallory, who you've all heard us refer to as Molly or Mallory, also known as the producer of the Blast. She has actually a bigger job, a bigger responsibility. She joined us, how many months ago now, Mallory?
It was late July.
Okay. In late July, kind of the first person that we brought on who wasn't part of the original team. We started to get to the point where we realized there's going to be a ton of marketing and communications and design and graphics and video production and all of that stuff in the multi-channels we've talked about. And, we could use a bunch of agencies to do that, but it's probably not going to be efficient. And those agencies are working on other brands. So it was time for us to have our own person who really could own the BOA brand and who could execute in a way that unified everything. And so we went out and found the best person we could possibly find for the job, and she's been doing a fantastic job. So, everyone, Mallory Forsman.
It's been a blast.
I'll tell you one thing real quick with Mallory. When we hired her, I can't tell you how how fast and quickly she hit the ground running. I mean, she went right into the fire because there were a lot of things starting to move really quickly. And, John's, as the CEO, he was directing all these things, but there were so many things it was just getting too cumbersome. And I'm not real good at stuff like that. I work on the IP, I work with the formulators, but there are so many things that just had to be things that really required attention to detail. And when Mallory came in, she firmed all those up for us and made us, I think, a little better, finely tuned machine.
So, Mallory, I want to ask you a couple of things. First of all, and be completely candid, you were not working in an industry remotely close to what you're doing now. So what's the transition been like?
It has been a learning experience. It has been a lot of fun, and it's also challenged me in ways that I didn't realize I would be challenged. My background is very institutional, my writing has always been toe the party line, stay in your box of passive voice and institutional voice, and that's not Bubba's brand. And when I compose things, I tend to stay on the safe side. So it's been challenging for me to kind of step out of the box and get a little edgy with it. And it's still something I'm working on and will continue to work on. But
okay, so next question. What was the first project that you were assigned when you joined BOA?
The very first project actually was a PowerPoint presentation. But I think the first memorable event and project was getting ready for Milwaukee, the USAT triathlon in Milwaukee. And I was terrified to travel because the last time I had flown on an airplane, I believe, was in 2017 with my then 18-month-year-old. But it was, and pardon me for using this again, but it was a blast. I mean, the environment there and the people just hungry for our product and seeing how they responded to the few samples we had and to our just what BOA Endure does was just incredible. And that's when I knew that I was part of something major. And that morning, I actually had to fly out a little bit later because that morning I was finishing up the design on our media kit.
So
which looks
the
great.
media kit, yeah, it looks fantastic. And like everything that you've done, I mean, seriously, you got the brand early through osmosis or what, I don't know. But, I mean, you really nailed the brand. And it's not easy to do that. I mean, to your point, you said, and correctly, you've been in a sort of a more conservative environment where you're trying not to make a mistake, and the brands that you represented are very old and very classic, and you also have kind of layers of bureaucracy that you have to be careful not to go outside of. And this is more like, no, this is an attitude. It's disruption. It's innovation. It's sports. You got to get people's attention. And so that's just you hadn't been wired that way. But I think we rewired some stuff that already existed with you because you just, I think
the key word you said was early, that Mallory came in early enough where in my mind she has as much ownership of the brand and the direction of the brand as we all do because she's really set the direction, like with the press kit, the media kit, all the things that we're putting out now. I mean, even now, we're moving into other products and new can design, and Mallory's handling that. So, I think she kind of owns the brand for us.
I will say, when I found out I had an interview, I, of course, went online to research the company, and there was no website yet. It was under construction.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah. So actually, let's talk about the website because you own the website now. So tell us about what you've been doing there and what was your reaction to it, and what are the things you want to continue to do? I know there's some limitation because of the type of site that we are, which is an e-commerce site.
This is actually the first time I've worked in a major e-commerce site. And when you work in the back end of websites, it all transitions. You know the basic functionality and you know the principles of web design and user experience. And our website has a really great design. It's got the big scrolling features. It is made to be mobile friendly because that's where the majority of our users come from. I love the fact that we have our blog integrated to the homepage, so we have all of our stories that we're willing to share. Our creative agency did wonderful work with our video assets that are in there. And, it's very easy to learn about the product and to get to the shopping cart from anywhere on the site. And I actually love the challenge of trying to work within the limits of our theme. There's great apps within Shopify where you can build specialized landing pages. And I really love doing that because I love designing, but it's fun to see what works and what doesn't. And different audiences go to different pages. And what's really great about the e-commerce site is the integration of all the customers. We have roughly over 500 contacts now in our system. And just the potential to nurture these relationships with these customers or with these subscribers is just there.
That's the key, is nurturing those contacts, because that one contact can turn into two, and that two can turn into five, and the 5 to 25. So it's so important. People always talk about the acquisition cost of a customer. And that's the key. If you can get, that's why the customers are so valuable. Some companies will say their acquisition cost is $150, $200 to acquire one customer. So the lower you can get that acquisition cost, the better. But it just shows the value and how valuable each of those a good customer is. Yeah,
and you also have to take that's a great point, and we can spend a lot of time on this, but we'll try to keep this short. You have to take a long-term view at what the value of the customer is, and whether or not you can create, through your relationship with that customer, what you said, not only someone who will be a valuable long-term customer for you, their lifetime value, but also will be an ambassador for you. And that's about creating a community, about loyalty, about they get me and I get them, and that kind of relationship. That's essential today. You can't build a big institutional brand. You have to have brands that mean something to your life in order for you as a consumer not only to spend your money, but to then share with others, hey, I want you to know about this brand. It's part of me. I'm part of it, and I want you to be a part of the story too.
And that's basically what Mallory is in charge of establishing. Is she's basically our touch point to these customers. I mean, we follow emails, the different things that we do to keep these customers engaged, to get them to come back, to make them stay on our website and our shopping site longer. Just making them stay an extra 10 seconds is very valuable. So those are all the things that we're learning, and Mallory's handling all that, and also handling all of our social media, handling our LinkedIn and our Twitter and our Facebook and what else do we do? We do YouTube. No, we don't do YouTube.
No,
we do LinkedIn.
We do YouTube.
We do YouTube.
Yeah, we
okay.
do. Well, in regards to being a brand ambassador, my job communicating with these people is both easy and difficult. The hurdle here is getting a can in the hand, because once someone tries this, they're going to come back for more. Now, whether they want to talk about that in a public space or not, that's up to them. But as we've seen from everyone who's used this so far, they are just clamoring for these cans.
So what you're talking about, I'm so excited about, which is, again, this is like, I don't know, whatever, number 4, the fourth, and I think this is the 4th time I've mentioned Chuck Jarvie. You can tell what an impression, that he made on me, giving me all these lessons. I went this morning actually trying to find my memos, and I couldn't find them. I was tearing my office upside down to try to find them. But he would talk about the pull-through versus the push-through, right? That you want a consumer brand that gets pulled off the shelf, that you don't have to push through promotion. And that's what we're talking about here, is something that has value, in that relationship that is so essential that the customer it wants it. The customer, is wanting to share it. The customer is thankful that you helped them solve a problem, and that's different than pushing through a brand with marketing. And the challenge of brands like ours is, because we know that people are going to respond to it well, because we've done enough testing, it's a matter of how do you get them to that stage, right? And to your question about cost to acquire the customer, how do you do that before you can actually do sampling when you don't have product to sample.
Well, and that's why it's fun now, because now we have had these samples start to roll in. But you go back to Mallory started in July. We had no website. We talk about the Milwaukee event. I think we went to Milwaukee with like 6 cans of product. So you're looking at saying, Mallory, why'd you even come work for us? We had no website. We had no product. Yet she took a leap of faith to quit a job and come here. And we've accomplished a lot since Mallory's been here. We really have.
So one of the areas that you've really helped us on is you have video skills. Not only can you shoot video, but you can edit and produce really high quality video, which is, for a company at this stage, to have that in-house is valuable. So let's talk a little bit about that. To tell us about some of the things you've done and how you learned to do that, and then what else you want to do.
I get so many compliments on that. Who does your video? And I said, we do them in-house. And when I say we, I don't mean John and I.
Well, let's not over-promote my skills. I actually have never taken a professional videography or editing class. I came on to video production by chance in college. My older sister in my sorority was actually a broadcast journalism major, and she was producing a campus news show, and she needed an anchor. So I said, okay, I want to get involved. And I was the anchor for 2 years, reading off of large paper-typed teleprompter, so to speak. And she actually trained me in Final Cut Pro, how to edit and all of that. And when she graduated, I took over and produced the show. Not saying it was great. It only aired on campus TV, and I didn't even live on campus at the time, so I never saw it live. But I was lucky enough to graduate from college in the age of where social media was very new, very young. Video, YouTube, all of that was young, but it was always an edge to have a visual component to whatever you were doing. And so I was actually, I think all of the jobs that I've been hired at, minus a few of my most recent ones, they just kind of found out that I knew how to edit and knew how to shoot. And
well, and you said don't over promote your skills, but you can't do that because it either speaks for itself, because we put your stuff out there. Your stuff's out on Instagram and out on Facebook, so people see it, and that's not been. We don't send it off to let Mallory work on it, then send it off to some big agency. Everything that we put out now, other than our initial creative, which was created by the Chicago group, it is put out by Mallory, so people can see that work. So I think I do so many compliments. I think it's been awesome. I didn't realize when we hired her, I knew she had some videography skills and photo editing skills, but that's been awesome that we can do it all in house.
Well, and what's great about video these days is that everyone has the ability to shoot and edit to a degree. And that being said, that means most videos are, we refer to it, and this is probably an outdated term, but man on the street. But the advantage of that is it's authentic. It's not overproduced, and the consumer or the viewer, whatever the medium is, you believe it when you have an authentic video. And that's what our interviews have been with Jim Kitchen, with Susan Kitchen, with Dave Burkhoff, with Jeff Bytomsky. I mean, we're just getting to talk to them. And John, you did such a good job of, when you were interviewing them, it was more conversational than just standard questions that have been written out. And that's how you draw out the personality and the passion of what they're talking about. And just going through and seeing, as I was editing, I watch it over and over and over again. I feel like I know these 4 people very intimately because I've listened to their voice so many times, but really I've only met them once or twice. But it's telling a story. And that's kind of how I branded myself, as a visual storyteller. And I'm excited about this product. So editing these videos was hard at times, but easy, because it's the education, it's the excitement, and it's just going in with the objective of letting potential customers know what this is and what it does.
I love that outlook, because everything that you do in the company should be storytelling. Whether it's the science, there's a story behind the science. There's a story behind the brand. There's a story behind the financials and the money raise that we did. So everything should be storytelling, and I think That's the key that separates great companies from good companies. Is great companies can tell that story across the entire spectrum of the company. And I think that's what, we're trying to build a team that can be able to do that. And with Mallory taking that approach, I mean, she's the one, John and I can come up with things, but then Mallory has to kind of convey them and get them to the point where we can send it out and share with the public. So I think it's been a good team so far. Great team.
So there was a book I read some time ago called The Power of Simplicity. And when you said visual storytelling, that's a really good phrase. And I know it's popular now. There's been a really good marketing book about, storytelling, but there's a lot to that. If you unpack what that means, there's a lot to it. But what I love about it is it's not as easy to do that as it sounds. When you say visual storytelling, people go, "Oh yeah, I get it." But actually choosing the words, not wasting the words, having the right visual images in connection with the words, choosing the right person, the authentic person who says it in their own language, that in itself is an art, right? And so I'm a writer. So the last probably 15 years, I've written a lot. But that's a long form. It's getting, unfortunately, to be something that's less and less prevalent. And so being a writer who writes in 1,000 or 15-word increments, then being the marketer who needs to use as few words as possible, and who has to think about white space being good and limiting the words to the absolute distilled down to the minimum number of words, but choosing the right image to do that and the right music to do it and the right tempo and the right editing and the right graphics, and then doing that in a way that someone, when they see it, they get what the message you're trying to communicate. I would naturally try to communicate it just like I just now did in too many words as a writer, but that's what I love about what you do is that you're naturally doing that because it makes you distill the words when you're using a visual element.
Yeah, you have such limited time to capture their attention. With the video, we have 7-second videos, 5-second videos, and even with the static ad, you can't put too much clutter on that because you only have a couple seconds to grab their attention with a few words just to get them to look at your ad. So I think there's a science behind that as well.
Well, I will say then that my college tuition money was well spent because my degree is actually in visual communications, which in school at the time we did not, it was too early to go into video editing or motion graphics. It was all still. But, that's the field has just evolved and you have to evolve with it. And it's just part of what I do. And I've always been a more creative person. Crafty, like one of my favorite assignments recently actually was shrink wrapping with a hairdryer some of our first sample cans in the hotel room in Malibu. And I joke about it, but it actually was very satisfactory when I could get the wrapper on the can just so. I can always cut that.
It took our cans from on a scale of 1 to 10, our cans were about a 1, and Mallory took them to a 7 or an 8. So it was a big leap for us to have a wrapped can with our logo on it.
So I'm holding in my hand now, you can't see this, obviously, if you're listening to the podcast, but a can, an actual production can, this gleaming, beautiful, metallic, what do you call this finish? Matte finish with a little bit of the gloss spot on it for BOA with the magic, I don't know what you call that graphic element, that treatment.
That's the
spray.
On the bowl. What is it, a spray?
Yeah, like the blast. I guess, right? It's like the micronutrients being blasted. Anyway, I love that. And usually after you look at something that you've been working with for a long, long time, you get tired of it. But I don't. I think it's just a great design. I love looking at it. We've been waiting for a long time to actually have these cans in our hand. So tell us, looking at that, we just earlier started talking about future products and cans. You're actually working on some can designs. Tell us about the things that you're working on now and the things that you plan on doing as we move forward over the next few months.
So right now I'm working on a design for our next product, which will be Fuel. It's going to be a citrus blast flavor, and it's really the part I love about it is the colors. I love color, and you have to get across what the flavor is, not only with the title and the type, but the color. That's going to really influence how it's going to taste to you. So I'm doing that right now, and I'm going to venture into another product as well and more colors with that. I'm a little nervous to send it off to the printer and see it wrapped on a can, because it's a like John said, this is a beautiful product, and I was going to add in, even if you're not in the market for endurance sodium level replacement, but you love great design and great packaging, you should order a can just to have in your collection.
Well, our brand company that has done a lot of great products has talked about this product. They'll probably enter it and try to win a few awards with this design. So that's pretty cool as well.
I'm also working on just nurturing the relationship with our new customers or new subscribers. I really want to figure out the sweet spot of communicating with them to where they're interested in the product and want to buy, but also not so much that they hit unsubscribe, because as a consumer of many things myself, I do love to sign up for new things, if only just for a discount, because I'm interested in a piece of jewelry or a piece of clothing or I don't know, something. And I order it, but then I unsubscribe because I am bombarded by texts or by emails. So you always want to walk that line and meet that balance, because as we said earlier, you want to maintain this customer and keep them happy, which once they try it, we will maintain them, but we don't want to alienate them from the community. We really want to develop a community where we can have people share their success story, share how BOA has changed their training. Social media, in particular Instagram, is a really important piece of this, because we want to build a community, and that's a community where people can connect and can't wait to dive into and facilitate.
Yeah, that's a great point. So this whole building a community around BOA based on authentic interaction with the brand and how that value was created for them. So we have all these text messages that we've gotten over the last few months from people who have, gone farther than they've ever gone before, gone through the wall, created their, own personal records. And it's happening all the time. And it's amazing how many of these stories that we get. And so the next part, is to start sharing that, and then encouraging others to share that story, not just back with us in a private text, but to the world, right? That's the next step for us, I think.
Right. Even though it's a limited sample right now, we're already seeing a trend that everybody sees this product, they get it. Now it's just, as Mallory said earlier, it's just the storytelling. So how can we echo that across the different media sources to so people learn about BOA?
Yeah, and as the CEO, my job is to try to help us figure out how to scale that, how to do it in the most efficient way that we don't have, 20 of these people texting us. We've got thousands of them, and then that becomes kind of an army of people who are sharing their stories. And Mallory, you become a curator at that point. And so you're not having to produce as much original content as you are deciding which one of the stories you want to feature and which one of the, authentic BOA brand ambassadors you want to feature this week, or a highlight. And that'll be fun to get to that sort of situation, because that's scaling, right? You can do this with a small audience, but the key is to do it efficiently and grow and scale the business, and so that our shareholders are in for the long haul, because they see that this has the ability to be scaled, and that if just on the limited amount of information we have, there's no question that we have a winner. Now it's about how do we execute that in a way that's efficient, how do we scale that in a way that gets us to a position of financial strength, so that you're in a position, Hank, for example, to spend a lot of effort developing new products and doing more fun research and R&D around other ideas you may have, even beyond the Aurablast technology, which is kind of the base of what we're doing. And so all that kind of feeds on it. So I'm excited about seeing how all these things can benefit the other, so that we get, I think it's Jim Collins that talks about pushing the flywheel.
Exactly.
So that's where we are now. So we're all leaning in. We've got our shoulder against the flywheel, and the thing is just barely moving. It's so hard to get it going. But once you really get it going and it starts to move, it kind of goes on its own, and you can't really stop it. So that's what we're trying to do. We're just got a little momentum now with the flywheel, but we'll get it rolling.
And we have the nice beginnings of this centralized brand. So whether it's Endure, our next product is Fuel, then we have a product Perform. We're really building the BOA brand. And John's right. Then we can kind of cut loose and bring other things, other ideas or projects under the BOA brand. But we have to do a good job at building that brand first. And with the company, back to Mallory, we're a small company, so we're all copied on almost every email. So it's like every other day I see Mallory is hit with another request to do something. I think you were doing T-shirts, and then I saw something come across about temporary tattoos. Tell us.
That's in process.
That's in process? How's that coming?
It's coming along. It's stalled a little bit. I got a little distracted with other things.
That was a new one for you, I'll bet. I'll bet that was a new one.
So, I don't know, 3 weeks ago we talked about a T-shirt design, and then 2 weeks ago we talked about a tattoo, and then today we had Mallory making boxes with her designed, what do we call that, tape? The BOA tape?
Tape, yes.
So you take an ordinary white box and put this really cool tape on it, and it makes a nice presentation.
I'll tell you what, if she has time, she's going to wrap Christmas presents for me this year, because she took this box and she put her BOA tape, and it looks like something you would have done at Macy's or somewhere.
I think that's overselling again.
I don't think it is overselling. You haven't seen me wrap Christmas presents, first of all, so it's not overselling. But, it just shows that when you have a small company, everybody wears a bunch of different hats, and you do things. And Mallory wears a lot of hats that John and I could not have worn. We don't have the skill set. So I think that's when I go back to John and building the team, and we're going to be adding new team members, but I think we really knocked it out of the park with this first one, because she's become just a valuable member in such a short time.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Mallory.
Welcome.
We got work to do. Let's get back to it. We'll talk to you guys next week on
The Blast.